Welcome to the LumiCast, your premier gateway to the universe of limitless photo editing. Dive into the galaxy of Luminar software and the dynamic world of AI photo editing. Join us weekly for a burst of creativity and the drive to transform your photos with confidence and skill. Broadcasting directly from Clever Photographer headquarters, it's time to welcome your hosts, Jakub and Holly Linton.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of LumiCast, our podcast where we talk about Luminar NEO, photography, and photo editing. I am your host, Holly Linton, and I'm here with my pal, Jakub, founder of Clever Photographer. How's it going today, Jakub?
Well, I am very excited for today's episode because I feel that it will be one which will help lots of photographers out there.
What is that topic that you're so excited about?
The most exciting topic we had in the history of LumiCast. We will be talking about organizing your photos.
Wow. Everybody better grab some popcorn for this one.
Definitely. Actually, following up on some of the more traveling podcast topics we've been covering and more about the gear, we thought that it's almost the end of August, or maybe it's September almost, and people are coming back from holidays with lots of photos in their cameras. So why not going through the process of organizing your images from camera all the way to exporting it from your photo editing software? Does it sound like fun?
Yes, and it's a very important part of photography.
Definitely.
In my opinion.
Definitely, I agree, because it's okay when you just started and you have a few hundred of pictures. I mean, it's not difficult, right? You can keep them organized or not. You will be easily able to find pictures. But once you start photographing a lot, after a few years, you will have thousands of images. And it will happen that somebody will ask you for your photo maybe 5-6 years later. And then finding it, or even more, finding the actual raw file for that image can be almost impossible if you don't stay organized. So some people really pay attention to this a lot and they are super organized. But I think balanced, good approach to this is really, really important. Now, we should say that what we're going to talk about today are our two experiences. This is how we do it. It's not necessarily like a religious kind of thing. You don't have to follow it to the word, but it gives you an idea on how it's done. So are you ready, Holly?
Yes, I am ready.
Great. So we are out there. We are photographing, and we're going to start by talking about how to keep organized your photos in camera. And talking about that, we're going to talk about the file name. Holly, how do you name your file in camera?
Well, I just use the default file naming system that already is in my camera. And it's really it's a bunch of letters and numbers. And I only just learned that there were different types of ways you could format the name and change the name. I didn't quite understand them, so I just left it where the default is. So it'll cycle through to about 10,000 images before it goes back to the beginning. Then I'm not sure what to do after that. So maybe you can touch on that when you talk about how you do it. But I just used the naming system that came as the default.
Oh, that's great. And honestly, if you haven't changed the name of your files in a camera, don't worry too much about it, because most of the time it's correct. It's done the right way. Okay, yes, there is a limit on the sequence, which can also be adjusted. It doesn't have to actually reset after 1,000, 10,000, 100,000. It's just done automatically in that camera that way. So if you using the built-in or default camera naming, it's okay. However, the way I do it, I adjust it just a little bit, and I adjust it for a simple reason. I actually edit photos from other photographers as well, maybe for education or for workshops. And sometimes it can end up being that we have the same files with the same names, not same files, but same file names, and that can be a little bit confusing. So what I've done, I have a file naming convention, or the way I name them in the camera is with my last name. So it starts with my last name, ORS. Then I put the date of the current date when I capture it. So it would be usually year, month, and day. And after that, that's when I put in the file number. So basically, it follows by the importance, where obviously my pictures have my last name, but then there is the date. And then there is only the file sequence, which is almost like the third important in that process. However, this really is only important until you start to move your files from the camera or memory card into your computer. And that's what we're going to move on now. So Holly, how do you do that? You're coming back from your photo shoot, you're plugging your camera or memory card into your computer. What do you do then?
Yes. Well, my old Mac had a memory card slot in the back. Now my new one doesn't, so I did get a card reader. So I just plug it into the card reader, and then I open it up on my desktop, and then I also open up my Finder window on my Mac and go to my Photos folder, which is on my external solid-state hard drive. That's where I keep all of my pictures. And then that's where I have all of my different categories. So my structure is really more by kind of subject matter. That's what works for me. So for example, I have events, nature, personal, vacations, and then I even have things like textures by Holly Linton or sky replacements, all those little specialty items, and I have an assets and accoutrements folder where I keep all my clever photographer stuff and any other items from other artists. So I kind of break it all down like that. Even like iPhone pictures, I keep those separated. So within nature, for example, then I'll have subfolders for either flowers or just different places where I take the pictures. So I kind of have a list. Like if I'll ramble down my list right now, I have like Barnegat Lighthouse, Bays Mountain Park, different literally like places. And then I have beaches and boardwalks folder. Within that folder, I have all the different names of, the beaches and the boardwalks. So that's how I keep it organized. And then I also have a folder called Finished Edits. I make that one ahead of time, so that when I go to export my pictures, I already have the folder ready to put those into. And I will rename my picture. Are we going to get to that part of the conversation yet? Or did you just want to know how I set it up?
Well, you can finish it yet, so.
Okay, so I'll edit my picture and I'll export it right back into that finished edits folder that I've already created. And I will rename it. I'll keep all the file name at the end of it. But say it's a purple flower, I might just call it purple flower, put a dash next to it, and then keep the original file name and put it in that finished folder. So that's how I do it.
And this finished folder is in each of these folders, or is it just one big finished folder you have?
It's in each one.
Okay.
So in every folder, I always put a finished edits.
That's cool.
So that I could keep everything just kind of contained in a small little batch.
Do you find it quite organized? Do you find it easy to find things, even if it's a few years ago?
Yep, I find it very easy to find things. And if we go back to the beginning of your talk here, I wished something I knew when I started was to be organized, because I probably went about 9 years without being organized, but I was using Apple Photos at the time, not knowing any better about putting things on an external drive or anything. And as you know, Mac Photos is mostly, it's just by date. Nothing's particularly broken down. So I still have about 30,000 pictures in a Mac Photos library that I kind of never look at. So I started this great file structure about 5 years ago when I started using Luminar NEO and learned a lot more about becoming organized. So for me, it works really well. I have no problem finding anything.
That's great.
So
I guess maybe it takes a little bit longer to organize the images when you transferring them from the camera, right? Or from the memory card, because you need to obviously take them and put them in these folders. But on a long run, there is this huge benefit that they are there based on the topic, so you can really easily go and find them.
Yes.
Where the strategy I'm going to be talking about, I import them based on dates, and on the same date, you could be photographing 3-4 different subjects. This is really cool. I really like the idea. Okay, we're going to talk about the editing, organizing more after this. So great. So this is how you get your images. This is how you keep them organized and how you organize them when they are finished. So let's talk about how I do it then. So we talked about it in past. I actually use combination of Lightroom Classic and Luminar for editing. I use Lightroom Classic as a tool for organizing the images and sometimes for the basic development. Now, just very quickly, so I use Lightroom Classic. You use application called?
I use an application called Apollo One. And you're right, I should have said, as people might have heard in other podcasts, I only use Luminar NEO. So I don't have the catalog feature that Lightroom, presents. So I had no choice but to kind of do my own research, because you'll hear, Luminar NEO is not a digital asset manager per se. So because I have, thousands and thousands of pictures, I didn't want to just have one catalog in Luminar NEO. So I looked up what's the best image viewer or photo previewer. And I found this app called Apollo One. So I've been using it, and it's just really easy for me to, it basically mirrors my external drive. So I flag all my pictures with a little purple dot, the one that Mac has you different colored tags that you can address to a certain picture. So I just mark those, and then I right click on it, and I can open it right into Luminar NEO from that app. So that's how I do it. I could probably open everything on Mac Preview and kind of see everything, but I feel like using the app, it's a little more of a seamless, nicer display, nicer way of looking at everything, and has a few more features.
Definitely. And I guess navigating between the different folders is also maybe faster. You are able to just click on them and move between them.
Yes.
Yeah.
It probably renders everything a lot faster than if I was trying to use Mac Preview.
The preview is good for a few files, I find anyway, but after that, it just gets a little bit laggy. So.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, so you use Apollo 1. Well, I use Lightroom Classic. I always did since the beginning of my career, before I even discovered Luminar and Luminar NEO. So what I do, I plug in my camera to the computer, sometimes a memory card reader, depending how lazy I am to look for it. So once I plug it in, a window pop up in the Lightroom Classic, which will allow me to import the images. So my organization technique follows the dates. So basically, my folders are organized by year, inside by months, and inside by days. So that's how I organize them. When I create the folders for the dates, I generally put, so there is a date, so which I always starts with the year, month, and day. And after that, I made a quick note about where I was. So south of France or Paris or just the cathedral, just to remember. It doesn't necessarily say what subject I was photographing, but at least I can find the location if I need to. Then I set the naming again, so I don't necessarily use the naming from the camera. I set the naming and also add tags to my photos. So I usually add like bird photography and clever photographer and something to the images, just so if I look for them later, I can find, or I can very easily see they are mine. And I change the name to simple date and time and sequence number. So date and time of when I photograph it, and the sequence number of the image from the camera. So that's how I change it. Click on import. They all get imported there. And once they in these folders, then I start to go through them. So probably similarly to the Apollo 1 or any other application, I just use arrows. I go through them. And as I go through them, if there is a potential for being a nice picture, I add 1 star. I use stars. Different people use colors, different people use flags. It really just get used to. So I add 1 star if I think that there is something about the image, and I just keep going on. And if there is a picture which I think like I really want to edit and there is something for it, then I use 3 stars. So 1 star for all pictures I like, 3 stars for my hero images. And that's it. And then I just go through the edit. So maybe I do basic development in Lightroom and don't do anything else. Maybe I just move the image into like Luminar NEO and do the full edit there. It really depends. But regardless, once I'm finished editing the image, I also always export it. And I don't have files in the individual folders, but what I have for every year, I have a folder for finished edits. So for example, now for this year, I would have a 2025 folder, and inside I would have a folders based on their locations or subject. So it could be flower photography or Chichester Cathedral or London or Tower Bridge. And I just keep exporting the images into these folders. So I also use the subject technique, but only for the exported images. And I always keep them based on a year as well. So I have the subjects, but they are sitting in that year simply because sometimes, let's say 2 years ago, I was on a workshop in the south of France. I can go to that year and very easily find that image if I need to. And that's about that. That's pretty much how I organize my photos and how I go around with it. Now, Holly, we talked about how you highlight the image, then you edit it fully in Luminar NEO, and you also export it. Well, one more thing we haven't talked about is the format you export it in.
Well, I always export it in a JPEG unless I did a background removal or saving it as an object, then I'll use a PNG. But I always keep the file name at the end, and I'll just rename it like Purple Flower or whatever the actual subject is, just so I have a little bit of information about it. And yeah, so we talked about this in our How to Export podcast, that I always do full quality and I don't do any sharpening. And yeah, that's it. And I'll put it back into my finished edits folder.
Well done. Yes, and similarly, I also export in JPEGs. I generally keep the long edge size on 5,000 pixels just for handling purposes. I like the file to be a little bit smaller. If I need full resolution image, I can always go back to the raw file and, re-export it again. But just these images, I like to have them a little bit smaller so I can go quickly through them. I can share them around social media and so on. Now, question from here then. So we are now done organizing photos in a camera. We have copied them into the computer. We have found the different systems on how to keep them organized on the image. So let's say that you add your green flag to your photos. So in one photo shoot, maybe you have 20 of them. Do you go and edit all of them all the time, or do you sometimes not come back?
For the most part, I do edit them because I'll right-click and open them all in Luminar NEO. And then I sort of mostly do it one at a time. So I try to do one edit a day. So I'll look through them. I'll put all my purple, flags on them. And then I'll open them in Luminar NEO kind of one by one, do my edit, and then go to the next one. Or, maybe I'll have all 20 there, but I'll know that I have a few things to work on, for 20 days.
Okay, great.
But for the most part, so like last year, my entire catalog was every picture that I edited for the whole year. And I had maybe 350 of them. So that's how small my catalog was. It literally just contained only the images that I chose to edit.
Okay, so that's the flag photos. And is there a chance that the unflagged photo will ever make it back again? Do you ever look at the pictures you haven't flagged?
Yes, because I'll go back and look through and I'd be surprised. Sometimes I flag something and then I look at it the next day and I'm like, why did I flag that one? So what I will do in Neo then is I'll right click on it and do remove from single image edits. So it might still have a purple mark on it, on my hard drive, but I've removed it from Neo because I'm like, I don't want to edit that one anymore. So, and I might find something I like better. But you're right, now there's so many pictures. We should sit down now and then to look through everything and refresh our memories because your vision is different. You might say, wow, that was actually a really great picture. I don't know why I never edited that one.
Or as you like to say, the opposite, when you review pictures you edited 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow, why did I do that?
Yeah, why did I even take that? So we didn't talk about deleting pictures. Do you delete any pictures?
I never ever delete any pictures, anything. I know lots of people do. Obviously, it's very storage consuming if you don't. But anytime I attempted to do that, I ended up deleting something I didn't want to eventually, Now whatever I photograph is there. I also feel very personal connection to the pictures. So I feel like they are my babies. How am I going to delete them? So no, I never ever delete anything. So I have a bad experience with it. What about you?
Very rarely. I basically try to focus on ones I do like and then just start editing and just forget the rest.
And okay, so finally, I just very quickly want to share an organizing tip from a friend of mine or very good photographer, Trey Redcliffe. So if you're using application which you're using for organizing your images as well as editing, he actually uses album. So let's say like you add purple flags to images you want to edit. And now he has lots of different folders and he doesn't edit them in such an organizing way like you that, you put them, open them, and then you edit them one by one. He basically adds these flags and forget about it. So what he does, on the top of this whole structure, he has an album which is called to edit. And the album is just a virtual copy. You're not copying the files there or anything. You just basically organizing your images this way. So anytime he adds an image, he adds a star, like in my case, or he adds a purple flag, like in your case, he drag and drop it into this album. So now he has an album where he has all these pictures which have a potential. So basically, let's say that you're coming back from outside or from work or whatever, and you're sitting in front of the computer and you're wondering what you could edit. Instead of going through the individual folders and looking for these pictures you liked, you go just into this one album and you just go with the arrow through and say, you know what, today I feel like editing this sunrise, or today I feel like editing this bird, and you go ahead and edit it. And when you edit it, you remove it from this album and it's gone. So you have this kind of living album of potential pictures, which I think is quite a cool idea. I think it's quite smart to do it this way, especially if you're photographing a lot and maybe you're ending up with lots of potential images. I think that's kind of a smart way to do it.
So it's whatever floats your boat. I think the important part is to be organized from the beginning of your photography hobby, if possible. If it's
definitely,
it's never too late. So start today if you're not organized, get a proper file structure and just keep on top of everything. I don't know how people I know a lot of people who have stuff on memory cards. They have like 10 memory cards full of pictures, but they haven't even looked at them yet. I wouldn't be able to live like that. I need to just do it project by project. So I go out on a shoot, I transfer them to my computer right away within 24 hours and then flag them, do my edits, and then just keep repeating that process. So
definitely.
I think going forward, I'll always be organized technically.
Good. And once you set your style, you're just following that and that's it. Be organized in your way is better than not being organized at all or trying to copy someone else's style and it's just not your style and it's not working for you. So you less likely continue doing it. So I think it's really important to do that. Anyway, folks, I think that's it for today. We have covered some ideas on how you can organize your photos, how you can obviously change the name and use that into your advantage. As Holly mentioned, start right away from the beginning because it will make your life so much easier as you go on. And from us, that's it today. Holly, did you learn something new?
Yes, I did actually learn that I am organized.
Awesome.
So I'm happy about that.
And I learned about Apollo 1. I never heard about it before. I hope we can talk about it again in one of the future episodes.
All right, we can do that.
Thank you very much. Have a good weekend, everyone. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye, y'all.
And that's a wrap. Now, there's only 3 things left to do. Subscribe to this podcast so you never miss a future episode. Visit our website at cleverphotographer.com/LumiCast to see what we have in store next. And stay creative and keep editing your photos no matter what anyone says.